Hi, this is Reggie York. This is a presentation on decision making related to the identification of new opportunities, a module that's a part of an organizational decision making unit of study. At the completion of this module, you'll be able to, number one, distinguish between two types of non routine decisions. That would be like problems that have emerged uh, or new opportunities. Both of these are non routine. There's some that are routine. These are non-routine kinds of decisions that we're going to talk about. Well, actually, we'll talk about the opportunities, not the problems, in this particular presentation. Number two, improve the search for new opportunities by applying new knowledge about three different things. There's several different things you could do. These are just three. Hopefully, you will get familiar with these and realize that there are some ways to do it that are different. You could engage in just a free-form discussion, dialogue, etc., that we normally do when we engage in looking out for new opportunities. But also, there are two that we'll talk about that are structured. One is the focus group dialogue, and one is nominal group technique. The nature of non-routine decisions, I'm going to ask you to hit the pause button. Just read this particular uh, slide and then come back to me. Okay, so we see here two kinds of varieties of non-routine decisions, a problem or an opportunity. You see some examples of problems, which we talked about in a different presentation. This is a presentation about the second one, which is an opportunity that has arisen, and we're deciding as an organization if we should pursue this opportunity. Two general approaches to identifying opportunities. Let's imagine that one of them we'll call approach A, which is engage in free-form methods of investigation. Ask questions, listen to complaints, review performance data, etc. This is what we normally do on a routine basis, day by day, without a particular structure that's explicit. We do have a structure in our minds, but we don't follow something that's one, two, three. Now, approach B is the one, two, three approach. Engage in systematic methods designed to bring to light ideas or problems or opportunities not readily apparent from approach A. I should not have used the word problems there. I should have just used the word opportunities. So just erase that in your mind. That might make this a little easier. And as I mentioned earlier, nominal group technique and focus group are two approaches that we will talk about in this presentation. Free-form method is a way of finding out information through normal channels of communication, the things we do on a regular basis. However, you are advised to think ahead of some of the steps you need in order to complete a good investigation. That doesn't mean you're following my steps, one, two, three, that I give to you, but you are thinking of what are good ways to go through an investigation of this new opportunity and do your own one, two, three kind of list. Freeform investigation, therefore, is not the same as stumbling around until something hits you in the head. It is systematic to a certain degree. It's just that you have created a system yourself rather than taking a system that has been created by others and applying it to your new opportunity situation. In regard to freeform investigation, should you be clear on what you want to accomplish before you start? Or should you just go with the flow until the goal becomes clear? You might want to hit the pause button and think about that for a minute. Well, I would say you should be clear on what you want to accomplish. That's one of the first things you would do. So on your list of things, you would of course want to enumerate that. Should you think of information that will be needed, or just let the process make this clear for you as you go along? As you might imagine, I would say yes, you should think of information that will be needed. Don't just go with the flow and hope things work out okay. But think explicitly of the information that's needed to help you with this new opportunity. Should you use critical thinking? Well, of course you should. Critical thinking is a way of helping you be more objective, of helping you get to better alternatives, better solutions, better opportunities for the long term. To summarize this discussion of the options here, you should be clear at the beginning about what you want to achieve. You should think of information you will need and how best to obtain it. You should engage in critical thinking. So those are three kinds of things to do in regard to free form discussion. What's wrong with this picture? Hit the pause button, read this, and think about it, then come back to me. Okay, my question to you would be, is this logical? If substance abusers tend to be very knowledgeable about drugs, why does it make any sense that you would give them training on drugs as your intervention to help them become less likely to be drug abusers? Well, it doesn't make any sense. And yet we find people doing this all the time, apparently because they have not systematically thought through things. What does critical thinking mean to you? Excuse me. Um, if you want to hit the pause button, think about this for a minute or two, make a note, then come back and we'll talk about it. Critical thinking in free-form investigation is a mode of thinking that is founded on logical analysis. As you can see here, logical analysis refers to the rules of a good argument and suggests that our thinking be broken down into interrelated parts so that the assumptions on which we draw conclusions can be clearly displayed and argued about. It's a lot about logic, but also clarity, transparency, and so forth. That's a big part of critical thinking. It's about avoiding errors in judgment, such as impulse buying. Sometimes, if you get impulsive about buying something, you simply have not spent time thinking about what you're doing. There's been some studies, in fact, that where people are in panic situations, let's say there's a fire in the building, some people will do panic things like jump out the window before, even though they have time to think more, they don't spend time thinking more, they just jump out the window impulsively. So critical thinking is about avoiding these things. To be a critical thinker, you should clarify your purpose, the key question, and the critical concepts. I'm going to put all of these out here and ask you to hit the pause button, look back at this, and think about each of these particular things as you think about what critical thinking is. Okay, as you can see again, there's an awful lot here about transparency, about being clear, about being systematic, about being logical. That's the nature of critical thinking. What's not critical thinking? Okay, illogical analysis, such as, for example, attacking the messenger rather than the idea. Instead of saying that John's idea has these flaws, instead you say, well, John's not a good person. You know what he's been doing lately. He's whatever. And so as a result, you argue against the idea by arguing against the messenger of the idea rather than the idea itself. The false dichotomy is another example of illogical analysis. If someone says to you, if you voted against the school bond, this means you do not love children. If you think about this scenario, there are four possibilities. You could vote for the school bond and not love children. You could vote for the school bond and love children. You could vote against the school bond and not love children, or you could vote against the school bond and love children. There are four options there. This particular presentation by someone arguing against you is presenting to you a false dichotomy, as though there are only two options there, not four. Another example is similar. If you favor more emphasis on testing in grade school, you must not favor instilling a love of learning in children. I was presented with that myself by a friend when I was asked, "Do you believe in testing in grade school?" I said yes, and the response was, "Well, do you not favor instilling a love of learning in children?" Again, a false dichotomy. So we've talked here about examples of illogical analysis, which means it's not critical thinking, it's contrary to. Is cherry picking consistent with critical thinking? Cherry picking means that you pick just certain pieces of information that supports your preconceived conclusion, and you systematically ignore information that is contrary to your uh, conclusion that you've already drawn before you started investigating. Well, of course, that's not any good. That's not a part of critical thinking. It's the opposite of critical thinking. Okay, two structured techniques for identifying problems that are not yet apparent are nominal group technique, a structured method of decision making that is designed to generate many ideas and to equalize participation, and the focus group, which is a method of getting ideas from a small group of people through a focus process. When I have used either of these methods, one of the things I find is that people become very involved. The more involved they become, the more committed they are to the action to be taken that is a result of the decision that is made. They are more committed to it because they have been engaged systematically in a process that has encouraged everybody to be a part of that process. Let's look at the novel group technique as one such method. It's structured so that all people in the group are involved, premature closure on ideas is avoided, and participation is equalized. These things happen because of the structure that's put forward by nominal group technique. It's best used when there is a genuine need to find out new ideas or identify problems that most need to be solved. If a given problem has been identified, you do not need NGT because you were searching for ideas for solutions in a condition of little concrete information. Here is the process. I'm going to just put these out for you, ask you, uh, hit the pause button, look them over so you can get an idea, and then come back to me. As you can see here, this is a set of procedures designed to maximize participation and to maximize the amount of ideas that are put on the table. Here are some advantages of nominal group technique uh, that I've already mentioned. Tolerance of nonconformity is one that I have not mentioned. You get more ideas, equal participation, more commitment. The focus group is another option. It's a small group of individuals who meet to discuss a set of questions. The questions are semi-structured in nature rather than highly structured or highly non-structured. For example, these two examples, if you'd like, you might want to hit the pause button, look these things over to get an idea of what kind of question is posed. Here are some tips for the moderator in particular. If you look these over by hitting the pause button and then come back to me. As you can see from these, this is designed as a systematic way of making this situation work. My own experience with this indicates that it's a good way of maximizing participation. I hope this is helpful to you.